what is a fate that is worse than death? In a lot of Old English literature, it seemed that the idea of exile was the worst thing that could happen to you, the idea that you could be separated from your people. And so in Old English poems like the Seafarer and the Wanderer and Deor, we see people who were in some way exiled or separated from their friends, from their lord, from their people. In the Wife's Lament, we see a kind of exile that might not have otherwise been considered exile, but really has the same kind of emotional pain for the people involved. You see, if you were an Anglo-Saxon woman of a particular social class, of being upper class, chances were that when you married, you would be married off for political reasons. If you are the daughter of a king, then chances are, then you have a good chance of being married off. You will be married off for political reasons, and there's a good chance that you'll be married off to an enemy or a rival people, or some way to solidify bonds. So maybe if I have an enemy who is who's in a nearby kingdom, and we want to make peace, other than just shaking hands and saying we agree to have peace, we want to cement that bond in some way, and we would do this by maybe one of us marrying off our daughter or our sister or some other female relative, marrying to the other monarch or to the child of that monarch, in some way taking these two families and bringing them together, so that in the short term, essentially, this woman acts as a kind of hostage there. You know, she's not living the life of a hostage, but you know that you're putting her life at risk if you go to war with that people. And over the long term, the children that come from that will really belong to both families. And ultimately, over the generations, you hope that you're uniting those families. And those women we often call peace weavers. Peace weavers were women who, through the marriage bond, created peace between peoples. The Wife's Lament appears to be about one of these peace weavers and a peace weaving that has gone bad. You know, when you look at the poem Beowulf, again and again in Beowulf, you see these little asides and these little side stories and little references to the idea of peace weaving. And Beowulf, the poem, has a very skeptical view of whether peace weaving works or not. Well, in the Wife's Lament, we see an example of peace weaving that doesn't appear to have worked. So what appears to have happened here is that this woman has been married off to what for her is a foreign nation, and somehow she is being separated from her husband. So the one person here who is her family, the one person with whom she should have a connection, this husband from this other culture, he's kept separate from her. And for her, this is a terrible exile, the kind of exile that we've seen in other elegies, like the Wanderer, like the Seafarer. So when we think about the idea of exile, very often we think about that in the sense of heroic exile, being separated from your people because of loss of battle, because of the loss of your lord. But the Wife's Lament reminds us that the emotional deprivation of exile can happen in all sorts of ways, including marriage outside your culture.